Now we're rolling. Damage Plan MMA podcast. I am Jason, as always. My co-host, Mr. Zach Partridge, and our special guest, Mr. Ryan Faust, is joining us again today.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I think just to run my mouth. That's about what I'm good at.
That's what Zach. You know what? I was at the gym, and Zach's like, "Let's get Ryan on. He'll talk a little trash about the Diaz brothers and McGregor, and let's get him on."
We got to talk. We got to talk about the 155-pound division and the mess that it is right now, and then to make light. You have Nate Diaz running his mouth being like, I want to fight Dustin Poirier at 170 pounds.
Wait. Before we get into this, because it's going to be a long conversation, I just want to say that if you were listening to the podcast yesterday, we have confirmation that tomorrow night, live at 8 o'clock, we are going to have Steven Razor Sharp and William Dunkel on the podcast at the same time.
They're just literally coming on to talk trash to each other.
They literally are just coming on to talk trash. Like William requested that Steve come on and join him on the podcast, and Steve's obliging. So,
well, I've been enjoying seeing Steve's little shots back to William and stuff. I haven't seen as much as William's come this way, but I've seen Steve's little remarks backwards. And
I think William's probably. He's been more. He's been the aggressor.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Great guy. We've been going back and forth, and we've tried to get him scheduled a few different times, and schedules just haven't aligned. But yeah, we got it lined up. So tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, we will be live with Steven Razor Sharp and William Dunkel. If you don't know, they are fighting at the Maverick Center co-main event, February 27th.
Come see it.
You better not have your kids turn into that one.
All right.
If you're offended by potty language, do not turn into that one.
Or do so, and you can teach them some new words.
That's true too. I like your look on things, Ryan.
There's always two sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right, let's hear it.
Ryan, what do you make of the 155-pound division in the UFC right now?
I think you got very, very good fighters in that division, but I guess the way that it's kind of stacked up and the way it's played out is just crap right now. It's just everything is jumbled up to where, to me, I would say that Poirier is the champion. That's just kind of the unsaid, but I think everyone's saying that. But without that belt around his waist, I guess that doesn't mean much either. But it's just, it's crap. Everything's log jammed, and you can't really put who's going to be against who, or you can. But then you got the arguments about money, or what's the better fight to make, or what's the bigger fight to make. That's where we start to screw up the equation.
At what point does Khabib have to just come out and say, I'm not fighting? I'm levels ahead of these guys. I'm not fighting. Vacate the title and put it on somebody, or schedule a title fight.
He did. He made the comment. He did say that
last night. He just said
it.
In his opinion, he said, as far as I'm concerned, Poirier should be the champion. Reschedule, go ahead. I don't think we see him coming out of retirement unless it's GSP. And I don't think that's for a belt. I think that's at 65 or something like that. And so I think for him, in his mind, he's done with the belt. You guys can have it. But him fighting is another side of the equation, but I think that's legacy, like he's been saying.
Before we move on to anything else, do you have any interest in seeing a Khabib and Usman fight?
Khabib and Usman fight? Just to watch Usman get beat.
You sure of that? You think that happens?
Sure that
I don't know about.
See, that's the GSP fight doesn't interest me that much, because if he beats him, he beats an old man past his prime, and if he loses to him, there's almost no upside for Khabib to fight Usman.
None.
Or Khabib to fight GSP.
Except for himself, though.
Except for himself, but the fight, to me, is interesting. The perceived challenge to me is Usman.
Well, and I think he's not looking at it that way. I think he's looking at it as the challenge is the person you watched growing up. The challenge is the person that your daddy told you was the number one. The challenge is the idea of you got this guy over here that, people can't throw much crap at GSP. You can't poke too many holes in his game. I agree with you that I think he's past his prime. I agree with you he's been out of the game for the past little bit. So are you going to get prime GSP? No, you're not.
No. No. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think Khabib's honestly smarter than that to not. I don't think he wants it. I don't think he wants that fight.
I don't think it's a big thing unless it's that idea of, they offer him a good amount of money. It's, something at the end of the day. I think he's doing a lot of this to get his guys on. I think he's keeping a lot of his feet in the game as a coach and a little bit of bargaining power for his team and able to get his guys some pretty good shots with his name still around.
Yeah. I like that. I like that take a lot, actually.
So, all right. So let's move on to who do you think are the two most deserving to fight for a vacant 155 title then?
I would say Oliveira and Poirier is kind of what I'm looking at, likened, and just based upon Oliveira's last performance. The ones before that, he was doing well, but they never stuck out in my head like that. That one kind of stuck out in my head quite a bit. That's where I see kind of the power coming behind her, or the steamroll coming behind them. It's like that's where kind of everyone's moving in that direction. I don't think Conor should have it. I think
of course you don't.
Of course. Look, Conor's a piece of shit. You know that, and I know that. Okay, let's be real. Okay,
here we go.
Let's be real. And he can fight well, but he hasn't been able to fight well. He hasn't been performing. He really hasn't. He's got his cowboy fight where he performed with those shoulder, checks. But, Cowboy already told you it wasn't the real Cowboy that came in. I mean, that was finished. That was other people have done that to Cowboy. You didn't have to be Conor McGregor to do that to Cowboy.
Yeah.
Other people have done that to Cowboy, when he's not ready. So really, who's Conor beat recently in the last how many years?
4, 5 years. Well, Eddie Alvarez was the last big one, right? Or was Aldo after? Alvarez was the last one, right?
Alvarez was the last one, I think, that I'm thinking of. But
yeah,
Zach, you know a lot more about this. Like, you keep track of all this data. I'm not as good at all the data as you are.
No, you're 100%. And everybody knows I like Conor, but everybody that listens also knows that Conor should not be anywhere near the title picture right now.
Except for money, right?
Money, yeah, and that, yeah.
Except for it brings viewers at times. I don't support that. I think that's a bunch of crap.
Well, yeah, but to Matt Euler, I'll give Matt Euler credit because he made the point. Conor's going to bring the viewership and the money, whether a title's attached to it or not.
Yeah,
but I think I said that too. Is I don't think you're going to bring that much extra money with a belt on the line than you are just having Conor there.
Yeah.
So there's the what we would like to see. And then there's the reality of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's the two. The reality of it is Oliveira already shot himself in the foot. The second he turned down the Michael Chandler fight, he shot himself in the foot.
Okay, do you think he did? And I honestly don't know if he did that.
So they reported that he did it. He came out and he said he turned it down because he said, "I'll wait for my title shot."
Yes.
The problem is there's so many people there and ready right now that he's going to get the Leon Edwards treatment and he's going to get put on the shelf to the point where if he thinks he can just sit and wait for a title shot, unless somebody gets COVID and falls out, the day before a fight and he's ready to go or something, he's not getting that title shot. So he's going to get put on the shelf.
But who are they going to put in that place?
Right now, if they are really talking about rescheduling Poirier and McGregor for May, like they're saying, the other fight that's going to happen, I think, is Gaethje and Chandler, and then the two winners of that fight will fight for the vacant title.
And Oliveira gets left out.
And then Oliveira gets left out.
But then can come after that. He'd take a fight somewhere in between there and come back.
But he said he's waiting. The problem, the bummer is he said he's waiting for the title fight instead of go beat Michael Chandler. Then you're undeniable at this point, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of people that don't want to fight Michael Chandler right now. They're getting the wrong way by Michael Chandler. So just because they don't want to fight Michael Chandler, it doesn't necessarily.
Give your theory, Jason.
I have a theory that I text Zach earlier today. Yeah. Here's my theory. I think these top guys in the lightweight division, I don't know if it's got together, but it makes sense. I think they've all kind of gotten together and are kind of giving a big FU to Dana White and Michael Chandler. And they're saying, you know what? Because if you noticed, nobody's calling out Chandler. And I'm sorry, but nobody's afraid of him. None of these guys are afraid of anybody at that level. Poirier's not calling him out. Gaethje's not calling him out.
And
Oliveira's not. They're basically saying, you know what? We don't want to fight this guy. Like we would rather fight Nate Diaz.
And that's where I think Oliveira has some movement here. That's why I don't think Oliveira has to fight that fight. I think Oliveira turning that down, though Oliveira isn't the Poirier turning it down, right? It's Oliveira turning it down. It's still another one of those top guys that's saying, I don't want to have something to do with him. So again, if he decided to sit out until he got a title shot, I see what you're saying, Zach.
Yeah.
I'm thinking he'll say, no, I'm not going to fight him. I'll sit out, but not really sit out. You give him someone besides him or someone that he feels deserves it.
Yep.
Then he will go ahead and fight them and then get the title shot.
Well, even Poirier commented and said he likes the matchup with Nate Diaz, but he doesn't want to fight Chandler. And exactly. I think that's more of an FU to Dana White and Michael Chandler saying, you know what, this guy hasn't paid his dues in the UFC. He's not coming in here and getting that shot. We're not giving him that title shot.
Well, and let's put this in picture. How did we get to where we got in the 155-pound division? Dana White giving people title shots and doing what we're doing and just, hey, I like this guy. We're going to do this. Oh, here's a new guy. Here, everyone wants to see him fight. Here we go. Let's move them. So you got fighters that have been earning this shit, working their way up there, and on their way, you've seen people jump the line, and you saw Conor jump the line, and he hasn't won in, 4 years, we've decided.
4 years, yeah. So Eddie Alvarez, yeah.
Right? I mean, I think this is all part of the dynamic. Part of the problem is the fact that you keep bringing people in and then trying to run them to the top, and and people don't like that. They've been putting in work.
Yeah, I think Dutch just said, I think the only person who's called him out has been Diaz, maybe. He's talking about Chandler. I think he's talking about Chandler, right?
Yeah, I think so too. But that's because he's not in much of the discussion besides calling people out.
But
I have a question, and this crossed my mind today when I was thinking about it. The Diaz brothers have been driving me crazy lately because I love watching them fight, but they call out everybody and run their mouths, and then they never fight anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Nick Diaz ever gets back into the UFC?
I don't know. I think they don't want him back in the UFC right now. I think Dana isn't looking. Honestly, what I've been thinking recently is he might not be looking like the old, Nick Diaz that he used to. He's out running. He's looking, lean. He's looking thin. But this is how many years after not being in there and staying sharp. He's been doing triathlon, so he's staying in shape. And I see them. They run their mouth about everyone, and I don't know the business behind it. But I would assume we run into problems when it comes to money. They want to get paid like Conor. And so they'll run their mouth about fighting somebody, and then they'll demand Conor money. And so the UFC won't give it to them. And that's why Dana will say they don't want to fight. When you have that much money, you don't want to fight.
Do you think that Dana won't necessarily give it to him? Like they would probably bring a lot of viewers, even if not having fought. I mean, you throw a Nick Diaz or a Nate Diaz on a card.
But what are they asking for?
Yeah, all that's going to be.
If you're asking for $10 million, you first fight back because you're Nick fucking Diaz.
Hey, guess what?
Mm-hmm.
Nick or Nate Diaz is worth every penny of $10 million, though.
Hey, you need viewership? I agree. Yet, who else is getting that type of money?
Khabib, Conor, and Amanda Nunes, I think, is the list.
That's it, right?
Maybe Izzy.
So
I don't think Amanda's there yet.
Yeah, I don't know if Amanda is.
She makes a lot.
Regardless, they're making money, but that's your illegitimate stepchildren that you got that are always in their mouth, complaining, getting arrested. You know what I mean? Getting in trouble. I mean, I don't think they're trying to really do all that much. Yep, I work at a fire facility. That means somebody tried to get out.
Nice.
Get him.
Yeah, get him. Is that Cole's job when he's not training?
Yeah.
He gets the job.
You let Cole machine out after him. No, I see Nate D. So I posted something just to jab my old friend Scott Devlin because he is Diaz Army through and through.
Uh-huh.
But it I saw a meme and I saved it, and it says why Nate Diaz is a fake gangster.
Okay.
And it says got outboxed and dropped against Conor. Don't know if he totally got outboxed, but he did get dropped.
Okay.
Looked unskilled against Masvidal. Definitely got outboxed and outperformed against Jorge. Didn't even accept the defeat against Masvidal and blamed injury, which is kind of fair. The cut, he would have fought through that cut. That's no problem.
Sure.
But he pulled out against the Dustin Poirier and gave no reason. in 2018.
Mhm.
He calls out Khabib now that Khabib's retired, and he knows like I don't know if he lives in an alternate universe or he just calls out things that he knows will never happen to try and keep himself relevant, but knowing it'll never happen. I kind of feel like it wouldn't even surprise me if we never see Nate Diaz again at this point.
I got a different take on that. I don't take that. I take it how he doesn't think things through like we are. Okay, he's not your average cat. He's not your guy that's sitting here on this Damage Plan podcast, sitting and talking about what's going to happen to the 55-pound division. He's saying, "Fuck the 55-pound division, I'll beat your ass." That's where his logic goes, right? So when he sees somebody call a name out, he's got into it with Khabib before. Remember they got into it. Yeah, slap.
Yeah.
At another promotion somewhere. I honestly think he just lashes out. I use the Diaz brothers as examples here at work in group when we're talking about, they never quit. So even if they get beat, okay, they still don't say they lost because it's not over yet. Okay, that the round might have done, this might have happened, but we're going to fight in the parking lot after, or we're going to fight in the hospital after, right? So really, you haven't lost until you quit, till you decided it's over. And that's the thing that I use the Diaz brothers for as an example of never quitting and always believing in themselves and always thinking they won, even when they don't. And even when they get knocked out or put on the ground, they still essentially will be right back up saying they didn't lose and ready to go again.
What's everybody doing?
You know what I mean? For me, I kind of put on that side of the equation of whether or not they're going to be in and out.
Yeah.
Still on.
I like it. Somebody, do you hear that in the background?
That's what I heard too.
I'm like, what is that? That's weird. What is that? Somebody's phone on?
We got the keys today. We're moving in. It's gonna be awesome.
I don't know what is going on.
We got the keys today. We're moving in.
Wasn't it Zoom that people were popping in like a year or two ago where people was able to pop in other people's Zoom calls and talk shit?
Yeah.
I think it was Zoom. StreamYard, you're letting us down.
Yeah, StreamYard's letting people get in on it.
Thank you so much.
But yeah, that's what I said. I don't know whether the Diaz brothers are going to come back or not. But I think, when you look at it, that's what I see happening. I don't think it's not gangster. I just think it as a mindset. We have a different mindset than everybody else.
Yeah.
Sure.
Or they have a different mindset than everybody else.
Just checking in. You rock, bro. You rock. Thank you for the support.
What is going on?
This is crazy.
You can all hear this, right?
That's what I'm saying.
I wonder who it is. I wonder if they can hear us.
If you're interested in my private coaching, which I do offer, reach out to me on Instagram. Send me a DM. A lot of people don't know that I offer private coaching, but I do. You just have to reach out to me on Instagram.
Hey, he's trying to get on. He's doing private coaching. He's trying to get on your stuff.
This is it's so weird.
Sorry, guys. But anyways, no, I just look at Nate Diaz and then he just said he wasn't interested this morning. He said he wasn't interested in the Conor fight or who else? Another fight. He wasn't interested. He said the timing isn't right for those fights right now. And I'm like, man, in my eyes, I think the Conor and Nate Diaz 3 fight, this makes the most sense for right now.
Well, I think, and this is just a thought, I honestly don't know. My thought would be in his mind, see, you probably see Nate as here. Nate probably sees himself as here. So in his mind, he's thinking, why would I fight this bitch Conor? He just got lost. He got beat how many times? I'm not in that little league.
Yeah.
I'm in this league. Who the hell are you?
No, I get that. But if you look at Nate Diaz's, like, I mean, I understand what you're saying. And I understand you have to put yourself in Nate Diaz's head, but it's like, dude, it's not like Nate Diaz is like some world beater. He's not his brother Nick.
And it's not like he cares that you guys think that either. He thinks he's a world beater.
He
thinks he
does.
That's the disconnect.
That's the disconnect. And we can sit here and be like, oh, well, no, but he's not this. Can't you see this? And that's why I said, you see him here. He sees himself as here. He sees himself as that world beater. And
he's still a draw. Like, I mean, how many other guys?
Are we talking about him?
Yeah, we're talking about him. Exactly.
Right,
Exactly. We're talking about the guy.
Right now, we're talking about him.
Just like he's one of the top 5 guys right now. We're talking about him. And
No,
he's
that's the reality though. He is a top 5 draw in the UFC right now.
Okay.
not top 5 fighter, but top 5 draw.
Yes.
Dude, Connor's the number one. I'm not talking about fighters. Connor's the number 1 draw. Jorge Masvidal is the number 2 draw. Nate Diaz might be the number 3 draw in all of MMA right now.
He really could be.
He could be.
Yeah.
He could be. Now, I'm sure he would think he's number 1 draw, right?
Oh my gosh. Of course he does.
I mean, of course he does, right? I mean, we got to put ourselves in his shoes. He's the number 1 draw. He beat the number 1 draw in his mind, right?
Yeah.
So how could I not be?
Jaden Marshall says the Diaz brothers remind me of some of the twins I know. Jaden, you guys don't talk enough trash. Maybe if you guys get on there and maybe if you guys start talking trash, then it might get
Actually, I've seen you guys talk trash.
Really?
So
You've seen the Marshall?
I had to throw that one out. That's as far as I'll go. But
Well,
I take that back. You're right. I have. There's been a few situations.
It's like that's what's most frustrating to me is I feel like Nate Diaz has hurt his own momentum.
he's done his whole career.
He is his own worst enemy.
His whole career. That's the Diaz brothers show.
It worked.
But it's working still.
Yeah, it's working. I mean, it's relevant.
Doing it for 15 years. The same thing.
I want to see him fight.
Me too. What do you think when Nick didn't show up to the press conference for GSP? He
Oh
just
my
didn't
gosh.
show up. I mean, that was 10 years ago. They were doing this for 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Same style. They're just different cats that we don't understand. So
No, but
we're going to put them in our pocket.
But remember in October when they said that Nick did a test weight cut to 170 to see if he could make it, and he did it, and that he would be fighting earlier this year. And now look, we're in February and crickets.
And do you remember what happened as soon as that happened? Do you remember what Dana said?
He said, "I'm not interested in booking a fight for him."
Boom. So how are you going to, so then that shows you.
It's because Dana's a liar, though.
We know Dana's a liar. But
Dana 100% wants to book him.
That's also, are you sure Dana wants to book him?
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah, he makes money. Nick Diaz fights, Dana White makes money.
But he also brings shit to the equation, dude. I got some clients that are not worth the amount of effort that I got to put into them. Does that make sense? To where I'd swap it out for something else.
Yeah.
If you could do a Nick and Nate Diaz card, how many pay-per-view buys would that attract?
So the key is there. If you could do a Nick and Nate Diaz,
I'm saying if Dana White could say, "Hey, Nick and Nate, who do you want to fight? I'm going to do everything in my power to make that happen. We're going to get you as co-main and main event together on a pay-per-view."
I think they've tried to get them on the same card. I don't think they've done co-main and main event, but I honestly think they've used that tactic before. I mean, I haven't been in the business dealings, but you'd be an idiot if you didn't. I mean, we use that tactic here locally. Here, you want to fight on the same card as your teammate? I mean, come on. You use the same thing. Look, here,
Makes
both
sense.
you and your brother get ready. We'll find you both a fight. We'll get you ready to go. It'll be the Diaz card, you know?
I got a question for both you guys. Is there another fighter on the roster right now that could pull off what Nate's doing and get away with it?
Yeah, Conor McGregor.
Yeah.
I'm talking like outside of like, is there a guy like at his fighting level, I guess, that's not in the top 10 of any division? Is there a guy
It's
that
a
can pull that much weight?
Winning fighter, a 60 to 65% winning fighter.
But that could pull that kind of draw.
No. But it's that piece that we don't understand, that disconnect that makes him so drawing, that makes us talk about him.
Yeah.
That disconnect that we're not understanding, that we're trying to understand, we're trying to put it in our head that we're just not getting, is what also keeps it relevant.
Was the 155 cut for Nate really hard?
It kind of was. That's when he went up to 70, was because his brother had stopped fighting at 70, and the 55 cut was a little too hard.
Because I was wondering, because he said, "I'm not doing the 155 cut anymore." But to me, it's like, I kind of feel like, remember, I mean, Conor always said, we did 170 twice. Now the next time we fight, it's going to be at 155.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think might be the hang up of why that fight, that trilogy never happens. And if that trilogy never happens, I don't know if we ever see Nate again.
Well, I see that as kind of like almost like the COVID vaccine piece, where everyone's complaining about COVID, then the vaccine comes out and everyone says, "I don't want to do it." right?
Yeah.
Kind of a similar situation there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I feel like Nate. If Nate comes down to 155,
Mm-hmm.
beats Connor, beats an RDA,
Mm-hmm.
beats Tony Ferguson. Oh, it's Connor and Tony. He said those were the two guys he's not interested in fighting at 155. If he beats any of those three guys, he immediately inserts himself into the title picture at 155.
Does he really care about the title at 155?
Probably not. Doesn't sound like it. But isn't that kind of weird that like him and Nate have never held UFC gold, and he's in a position that he can make that happen, and he fully believes. Nate believes he can beat all those guys. That inner belief.
Yeah, he's not scared.
He's got the belief.
He's not.
Yeah,
He is not
yeah.
scared,
No.
and I don't think any of those guys are afraid to fight each other, especially for the amount of money that they're going to make to fight. I'll step in a cage with anybody for $10 million. So I'll get in there with Brock Lesnar for $10 million. Get out of here. And
You get carried out in a stretcher.
sure, but I got $10 million in
We
the
got $10 million.
Look at it like this. I mean, because remember the first few times, we were bringing this idea. Okay, the first two times they fought at 170, and then we said we'd do it at 155. But these other times, it's not like they all wanted that either. If you remember, the first time they did the 70 was because they kind of had to, right?
Yeah, 10, 11 days notice.
Yeah. And then he lost. And so since, Connor lost, he had to demand it be back at 70 again so he could redeem himself, right?
Yeah.
And when Nate wanted it at 55, but he's like, oh, no, I want 70. I want 70. Like, fine, we'll do 70. Now it's like he wants what other people don't want. So, Connor wanted 70 when Nate wanted 55. And now when Nate wants 70, Connor says 55, which makes no sense because we're how many years older? Weight cutting gets more difficult, and both of them are.
Yeah.
And that's just a fact.
Well, yeah, that's why you don't see Connor going back down to 145.
That's why
he won't come back.
55 right now. And I said, you'll probably end up at 70.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, probably end up at 70, in terms of your career length.
Do you see? Well, Poirier said he would entertain Diaz at 170. Do you see him wanting to take that fight and maybe just saying, I don't really care about 155. I already know I'm there.
Yeah.
He just made that comment about taking that fight. So
he's crazy. He's literally walking away from the belt if he does that.
He could be. I don't think he cares about the belt.
Dustin
it could
Poirier
just be more
doesn't?
about. No, not Dustin Poirier. I don't think.
I'm talking. I don't think Poirier does.
Poirier doesn't care as much, I don't think.
I don't think anymore. I think
he just said that's the last piece to his legacy is obtaining undisputed UFC gold.
And he's happy with the man that he sees in the mirror right now.
I'm with you, Ryan. I'm with you. I think
that's what he said. I'm happy with the guy I'm seeing in the mirror right now, man.
I don't think he likes the politics. I don't think he likes he doesn't like the politics. Yeah, he doesn't like the politics that are going on. He's like, hey, I'm the champ. I'm the best. If he wants to go fight Diaz at 170, he's getting paid. That's another huge money fight.
And that's why I think they're taking that next step of almost maturity of like saying, okay, you know what? I've been fighting for money for a long damn time, for this belt for a long damn time. Now I want real money and I want, fights. I don't care about that stupid belt because they're offering it to people for nothing. They're offering belts. They're offering all sorts of stuff.
Has the UFC, has Dana White like disvalued the import or the significance of having that title with what he's doing with kind of playing kind of the politics and like you seem to be seeing more guys go. They're wanting the money fights. They don't. I don't think these guys are coming up saying, "Hey, I want the title." Like maybe when Poirier first started coming up, it was all about getting that title. But now, I think they're kind of. It's just not there anymore. I don't think people care anymore.
Can I go ahead, Ryan?
I was just going to say, and I think Connor did part of that to it.
Can I
that too? Yeah.
Until a grab instead of kind of a more things to accomplish in my life.
Yeah.
Can I tell you why? Can I tell you why the 155-pound belt probably doesn't mean as much to them right now? Because Khabib could come back and take it back from him at any time.
Which one?
Good take. It's true.
The Diaz brothers or somebody else?
No, all
Khabib.
of them.
Oh, yeah.
Khabib, all of them.
Maybe Poirier's made his peace with it because he knows that as long as Khabib's around, like the rest of his career, even if he gets 155 gold, there's always going to be like you only got it because Khabib retired early.
And I think those are the few things that keep Khabib interested in GSP. Is you became champion, you were this, you smashed everybody because GSP wasn't around anymore. And so, of course, how do we solve this problem? Well, we beat the guy, but does that really solve the problem?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I agree, Dutch, that I think titles lost their importance with Brock.
I do. Yeah.
Again, that was cash grab. This is, here, let's bring somebody in here. Let's give them a free shot. Let's do this. Let's do that to make a bunch of money.
So Brock happened more before I was following MMA as a hardcore fan. So just forgive me. So I know Brock jumped the line, right, to Randy Couture and fought him. Mm-hmm. Would anybody else have beat Brock though?
Yeah, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, it depends on which person. Brock didn't like to get hit.
Yeah, he did definitely.
Still doesn't.
Yeah, so Brock was one that would lay it on you, and as long as he's laying it on you, he's fine. But as soon as you start hitting him back, as soon as he starts meeting that adversity, he kind of hits a little bit like Conor sometimes, right? But he would do it much, much earlier, if that makes sense. I remember back then thinking Shane Carwin would knock him out. I don't know if they ever ended up fighting. I don't remember.
They did.
I bet you.
They did.
Shane beat the crap out of him, gassed out. Brock survived.
Yep.
Gassed out, and then
I remember it.
Ended up beating him.
I remember in the second round, what's his name beat him, I think, but Carwin was beating the crap out of him early. So,
yes.
Hey, props to Brock for staying in it.
He stuck in it, and I'm not going to lie. I think the ref would have been justified to stop that fight. I've watched it several times. He gave Brock every opportunity. Brock capitalized, made the most of it.
Yep.
So can I kick you another one? And this is unpopular because everybody loves Charles Oliveira.
Sure.
I don't think he deserves a title shot over some of those guys right now.
Okay. So why?
Because he's on a 8-fight win streak? Is that right, Jason? Or 6?
A good number.
Good number.
Yeah, he's up there. Good number. I'm looking it up. Go ahead.
Pretty much a bunch of unranked journeymen until you get to Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee is 2-4 in his last 6 fights. Mm-hmm. And then he beat Tony Ferguson after Tony will never be the same after what Justin Gaethje did to him.
Okay.
I think he needs one more before he just says, no, I'm demanding a title shot. Okay. That's why I'm saying if he beats a Gaethje, a Chandler, a Connor, or whoever.
Now, why is Chandler so high on your list?
His body of work and what he just did to Dan Hooker after Poirier doesn't put out Dan Hooker in a 25-minute slugfest, and he comes and puts him out in 2.5 minutes. And I'm looking at Michael Chandler's entire body of work throughout his career. He's legit. He's not some no-name that's just coming in out of nowhere. I mean, Bellator's the number 2 promotion in the world, and he was a 2-time champion for them. He's tested his mettle against guys like Eddie Alvarez and stuff over there. Benson Henderson, who's held UFC gold as well.
Hey, if we're going to go there, then if we're talking about people on their skids, and you bring up Benson Henderson's on a large skid from when he was actually at his prime in the UFC.
He beat Benson Henderson 5 years ago, back in 2016. So he's split decision, so close fight, but then he knocks him out. He came to the UFC.
He beat Benson in a classic. Yeah, what was it? 5-6 years ago.
2016. Yeah, 2016.
Ever since Benson went to Bellator, he hasn't done much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he definitely hasn't lived up to. I mean, he wasn't the same Benson that was here, or was it the UFC here? Was it in the UFC? But I'm just saying, he's got a long body of work where it's like people are like, hey.
So does Oliveira. You can say the same thing about Oliveira.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the same kind of medium competition type thing that we're talking about.
Well, I think that's why the Chandler Oliveira fight makes so much sense.
So, I guess I think they're all banning against Chandler. I think Oliveira's been in what? We're on what? 8-fight win streak? How many fights we had?
8 fights. Yep, 8 fights.
How many total in the UFC?
Forever. He's been in the UFC since 2014, 13.
So if you've been working somewhere since 2013 or 14, and all of a sudden your boss brings some new guy in and is challenging you for your job, are you going to like that?
I'm going to want to go ahead. I'm going to want to go heads up with that guy.
Why?
Why do you to prove my point that I'm better?
But I don't have to prove myself sometimes. They should respect me now after working with them for so long. They should, at this point in time, know who I am, know what's going
Yeah.
on. I don't have to prove that to them. And if they're making me prove it to them, well, then essentially I'm only as good as my last fight. And you guys, there's not a big care. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you're the UFC,
I do like the matchup, but
so if you're the UFC, what do you do with Michael Chandler?
Michael Chandler, I think you already gave him a shot. You already put him in there, and you put his head on the firing range when you put him in there as the fill-in, right? So you put him as the fill-in, and you pissed a bunch.
That's where the UFC screwed up for sure.
He's pissed a bunch of people off. Had they not put him in as a fill-in and just let him come in and fight people, I think you could start bringing his name up there real fast. But I think there's already bad taste in people's mouth at this point in time that now he's going to have a hard time fighting some of those upper echelon guys, some of those top guys, not the mediums, because the top guys are going to hold out on him because he needs to earn it.
Eventually they're going to have to fight, though. They're going to have to. Dana White's going to have to do something.
But yeah,
I think it should be Gaethje and Oliveira should fight.
Oh, everybody's happy then.
That's two fighting. Dustin's one. Khabib retires. Dustin's one. Gaethje, Oliveira. Chandler's sitting at 4. Have Chandler fight RDA.
Yeah. I like
him fight RDA.
I like that.
Make it that's really the only thing that makes sense. I mean, man, you could even. I don't know if Dariush is ready for him, but he looked pretty impressive this last week in Beneil Dariush, and he's just cracked into the top 10 too.
When I saw that, I think that's good. I think have him go against somebody that's up there, but doesn't work his way up there, if that makes sense. Instead of kind of just giving him spots. And again, I think that's where they screwed up. Is they put a bad taste in people's mouth by making him that villain.
So if you're
agreed, Dutch.
Yeah, he's Patricky. Yeah, Patricky's the only one. He got knocked out by his brother.
Yeah, so I like those guys. I think that would be kind of some of those higher levels we were talking about.
Oh my gosh! If Pitbull would come to the UFC, that would just be the biggest fight ever.
Do it. Do it.
But if you're Chandler, I'm sitting there and I'm Chandler. I'm looking around. The one Dana White screwed you. Mm-hmm. You thought you were getting a push, but essentially it screwed you because now all the 155ers are going, F that guy. I'm not going to fight it. Like, he doesn't deserve to fight me.
Uh-huh.
So how far down the rung does he have to go to fight? So beats an RDA. Then is that good enough? Or does he have to beat an RDA and a Dariush? Like, how many guys below him does he have to beat?
Beat an RDA and then go and beat another one of those top guys, not for the belt, and then get put in for the belt.
I'm fine with all of that. Like, I'm fine. I think it's all fair. I'm not even totally against if Oliveira got the nod. Great. It's going to be a great fight. That's what I'm interested in. Is I want to see great fights, and it's going to be a great fight. I'm just saying, if you're talking about resumes, you're splitting hairs so close. They're all great fights. Isn't this now the time more than ever that they just need to do a tournament?
I don't know if he'll ever go back to tournament style, man. I'd like it, but I don't know if they'll ever go back to tournament style.
How do you not do a 4-man tournament with Poirier, Chandler, Oliveira, and Gaethje right now?
I think this is things. I think there's a lot of, like you said, a lot of good answers, right? Like, here, I wouldn't argue with that, or I wouldn't argue with that. I think maybe start looking at the things that we would argue with instead of not argue with. The things I would argue with would be putting Conor up there. I don't think Conor should be put
the Poirier Conor rematch. I think it's crazy on so many levels. Because one, dude, I think Conor loses. I don't think Conor has a chance to beat those top 155ers until he's fought 2, 3, 4 times and has more cage time and can get back into being an active fighter. And then we'll see if he can regain that momentum. But he's not going to do it fighting those top 5 guys. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
he'll be lucky to go 500 if he fights. He just lost to Poirier. If he fights 3 more fights and against any mix of Poirier, Gaethje, Oliveira, Chandler, any of those guys, he'll be lucky to go 2-2.
So that tells us that yes. So that should be a questionable one for a championship.
Yes, that can't be for a belt.
It can't be.
But Or you just do it because Poirier, me and you both agree, Poirier is already the unspoken champion of that division.
Yeah.
That's basically a ceremonial, like Conor wanted the rematch. Let Poirier knock him out again, because I totally think that's exactly what's going to happen. And then you could put the belt on Poirier, and now we're back to business as usual and try and get some normalcy in that division.
Well, here's where my anti-Conor piece comes in, is here you go. You're giving Conor another little payday, another little bump to the top, just kind of keeping this little scheme rolling. I mean, he's failing and he's dropping. And at the same time, you're still kind of giving him that extra. Why don't you say, hey, Poirier, who do you want to fight out of any of these guys? Then let Poirier pick out of the top 5 guys and say, okay, there you go.
I think he's already said Oliveira is the guy.
He just said, but he's in talks and agreeing to rematch with Conor.
Yeah, that's true too.
And I think
if you're Dana,
money. Remember, I don't think he cares as much about that belt. They're getting older. Now they're really seeing the idea of, dude, I got to take care of a family. I got to do this. And I'm not going to have a job come in the next little bit, at least not a job that pays like this.
And Conor's in such a weird spot too, because if you're Dana White, you can't put him in there with a Dariush. You can't put him in there with a Paul Felder. Like, that's just not a.
No, it's not.
I mean, it's going to be a draw, but it's not a draw in my opinion.
There's 2 fights for Conor right now. There's 2 that make sense. The Nate trilogy and RDA, because of their history, and they were already supposed to fight for the 155 title. That's it. And that could be winnable for Conor. RDA is a scary matchup, I think, right now. The way that Conor looked, the way the RDA looked.
Yeah, RDA looked good his last fight.
But the time to make, or Tony Ferguson.
I was going to ask you. That was my question. Was what do you think would happen against Tony?
Tony,
he's never going to be the same. You've already said that.
Tony's
Conor,
Tony's Diego Sanchez.
If I'm Conor, I want Tony right now, because I think Tony's beatable now, and I think 1 or 2 more losses, and then that fight's gone forever. I do not think Tony will ever be the same again.
And I don't either. I agree with you.
Yeah,
and after Oliveira mopped him, right? And people was Tony overrated? Da, da, da. No, he was phenomenal for that 13-fight win streak. He was phenomenal for half a decade. He was the boogeyman, and he was terrifying. He was the guy that I was most afraid of Conor fighting because of it. But he is not that guy that he was 3-4 years ago.
And I don't think Conor's not the guy he was 3-4 years ago. Conor's fighting to try to figure out how to make himself win. I mean, now he's got to be mean again. What? Oh, here, no more Mr. Nice Guy, because I have to put.
He did post that. Yeah, I saw that.
That's the only way to win.
But so I said it on this podcast, from your professional, as is your profession. I actually talked to Cole about this at the gym last time we trained. By Conor being a nice guy, I think he took away his biggest weapon, and that was the mental warfare. He beat guys before he already got in the cage with them.
So that's all he's got.
That's not all he has, but that was his most effective tool.
When your most effective tool in a fist fight is mental warfare.
Well, it's a problem, especially when you fight people like Nate Diaz and Khabib, huh? That's what we saw.
It's a problem when you fight anybody.
If
you go in thinking you're going to lose, if someone's already beat you and they're already in your head, I mean, it can be the rec basketball. My older brother used to beat me in tennis because he would get in my damn ear and run his mouth and piss me off. The next thing you know, he'd get me and he'd beat me, even though I'm better than him. Point being, it was that mental thing got to me and made me do it. Now, who's better? I am, right? So skill-wise, I am, but I would let that get to me. So if we're talking, like I said, if that's your best tactic, I think it's one of his. I think he has people beat before he fights them. But what I would like to hear, because I think Khabib does as well in many things, is more along the lines of, because they're scared of what's going to happen to you, right? Not the mental warfare of I'm going to talk trash on you, or I'm going to say something mean about you, or I'm going to sit there and do that. It's the fact that, say, with Khabib, you're going to get straight mauled for how long, and that's what's going to happen to you.
Yeah. I'm just saying, Conor being the nice guy, he loses a huge edge that he had.
I think that edge is, even if he tries to go back to that, everybody's hip to it now. It's not the same.
He can't go back to it.
He can't go back to it now. He's
And I agree too, Jackson. So we should have one. Yeah. March 13th. Cole should be fighting. So that Steel Fist card for that 155 belt out there at Steel Fist.
I'm so excited for Steel Fist to come back.
Oh, me too. Me too.
I just want to see all the local come back, and not to throw shade, but the ones that have been going on, it's just been a little bit underwhelming. So
But yeah, I can't wait for it to come back. Honestly, I can't wait to see my boy finally get to let loose after a year and a half of being like a caged animal.
I think everybody's excited for that.
So.
Hey, I've been on the other side of a lot of those beatings of him getting ready to let loose. I'm ready for him to let off a little steam too.
It'll be easier for you.
Gosh.
Did they say
it's like every week in sparring? It's just a little bit. You would just get a little bit more every week.
Well, I mean, he's good to bring it. So
he's good. It's going to be good.
I want to bring up something. So I posted something in the group yesterday that I thought would get a little more positive stuff, but it's actually gotten a lot of negative feedback. Gabe Rudiger, I don't know if you guys followed him, but we had him on the podcast a while back. He posted something that says he's giving advice to aspiring fighters up and coming. He's telling them, don't worry about your shorts. I'm just going to briefly go over some of the highlights. Don't worry about shorts. Don't worry about walkout shirts, sponsors. Don't worry about building a persona. Don't worry about talking trash. Your job is to be the best fighter you can. Work on your skill set, work on your strengths and conditioning, work on your mental capacity. What do you guys think about that? Because a lot of guys on there are saying, no, you kind of have that. I was thinking early on, I think you need to kind of build that foundation first before you get to that next level. But what was your guys' thoughts on that?
My opinion is no, definitely. I mean, I think that's right on. I mean, those are the things you got to worry about. Who cares what color shorts you got on? Who cares what things like that? I mean, it doesn't make a difference. Yes, later on, you need to create a brand or you need to create. For sure. Something. But very frankly, do you think, say with Cole, are we creating any brand with him? No, he doesn't talk.
Well, yeah, I mean, right now it's like you kind of got to get to that. I think you got to at least get to that next level before you start creating that. And I get what he's saying, but I think a lot of people seem to kind of take that wrong. Like you need to have that, which I think you do. Like you're seeing that now. You have to have that aspect of it. That business side has to be part of it. But in my opinion, you can't put the cart before the horse, man. You have to build that foundation.
Yeah, I think you're definitely selling a product of fighting. I mean, that's what you're selling is how good you are. You know, yes, there's another piece of the equation, which is, you know, the gimmicky side to it, or how to get you on shows, or how to get people either to hate you or like you so that they want to buy tickets to your fights. Either way, so that they sell, so you sell tickets, right? But I would definitely say when it comes to those things, we focus specifically on all of the smaller things in Cole just being a better fighter. We do not focus on what gimmick he's going to be or what's this or what's that. Everything is focused on strength and conditioning, endurance, technique, you know, so it really doesn't make a difference what happens, frankly, with his shorts and stuff like that. Zach, you bought him a pair of shorts. I mean, we act like you have all these different pairs of shorts. Another pair of shorts he's had for the last 5 years, maybe 6 years. So we don't worry about little things like that. We're prepared on getting better. And I think that's, I believe that's what that article was kind of talking about, was saying, hey, work on getting better and how you're doing here, not focus on what gimmick you're going to have when you're big.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I took it. How'd you take it, Zach? What was your take on that? Because I seem to be a lot of differing opinions on that post.
Well, what's your reason? To me, the core of it, what's your reason for fighting?
Yeah, right? That has to be there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, just like anything in life, you got to have a goal. You got to have something to shoot for.
So Cole, and let's take me versus Cole. Mm-hmm. Cole is aspiring to make this his career, and this is what he is going to do. Mm-hmm. It is a lot more important for him to be doing that stuff and not the marketing stuff, right? For me, I'm not going to have a long career in it. So when I'm in it, I got to make it count a little bit more to make it worth it too. I'm a little bit longer along in life and things like that. Or some people, it has nothing to do with the career. You'll see it every once in a while. People just hit up Kevin and Pat or whoever and just say, get me on a card. I'm down to scrap. And they just show up, put in their cup and mouth guard, go out there, win or lose. They don't really care. Don't care if they sell tickets. Like it's what do you want? So if you're Cole, Ryan's exactly right. If Cole's in a really good spot. And the other thing is, if you're Cole, is just be yourself. I think that's the most important. Is if you're an aspiring fighter, be yourself. If you're shy and reserved, be shy and reserved and whatever. And then let people like your dad, or if you have teammates or coaches or whatever that can help you with the marketing stuff, let them handle it. You don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Just be yourself. You do you, right? And I think that's the biggest thing is, and we've seen it time and time again. Everybody knows when somebody's being phony. People don't like phonies, right? But when you're yourself, whether you're a trash talker or you're humble or whatever, when you're self, more people are drawn to that guy.
No, I say that in group, when I work here, I talk about being themselves. And I say, look, I have friends that are assholes. That they're just an asshole. And honestly, they'll say something rude or something like that. And I'll look and I'll say, dude, you're an ass, and they'll say, yeah, I know. And then we move forward, right?
Yeah.
It's not like it's a deal breaker. You know what I mean? They're still my friend. It is what it is. They're honest about who they are. I'm honest about who I am. I think it was an ass move. They think, or they know it was and don't care. And you know what? That's okay too. And I think that's one of the big things, like you said, be yourself. That's sort of where the gimmick comes in, or how do I do this, starts to who am I going to portray? Or what persona do I want to take on to sell my product?
Let me just, I'm going to use Cole again because he's the aspiring fighter, right? Like this is what he's going to be doing. He can, if he was a talker and a trash talker and all that, I think he could build just as big of a persona or who he is being look at this kid who's the young throwback who licks his gloves like BJ Penn did and pays homage to a BJ Penn and not necessarily like this new age of fighter. He could be the new age of coming in as a completely well-rounded, can beat you on the ground or on the feet, in the clinch, wherever, but still be an old school guy. And he can create a very, very marketable brand around just being
him, a
throwback him.
Yeah.
Right. So that when he's saying aspiring fighters, don't worry about that stuff. Right? Don't worry about it. You be you get better. Like Ryan said, you will focus on the gym or whatever. And then if you're not that big outgoing personality, just have people in your circle that can help with the other stuff. Because I mean, we could help him make money with shirts, sponsorships, get him shorts, whatever. Like other people can do that for him. He just has to put in minimal effort, just be him and he'll be fine. That's my big. Jerome Hatch said disagreed with it, right? Well, look at who he is. He comes on the podcast talking about he's going to do this and that and this and that to Zach. That's not Cole. Like different things are going to work for different people.
I think at a certain point, I think you do have to kind of have that. But I think early on, what I gathered from that was early on for a kid like Cole, that's the last thing that he should be worrying about. He needs to be worrying about sharpening his tools to become a better fighter. And then as he starts to get up there, then I think that stuff becomes a little more, I mean, let's face it, it is, man, to have a presence on social media, to get your name out there, to sell shirts, to sell tickets. I think it's starting to matter a lot more now than it did 10 years ago when you can just, when we had Joe Bish on here and he talks about getting in the cage with his jeans on, throwing down on a Saturday night at Club 90 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like back then, but now you're starting to see that shift with social media. That's a huge. It's a huge portion of it. I took it that early on. Don't focus on that.
And I agree. And I think, again, person by person, kind of what they're kind of wanting to accomplish by the situation, I think is a big thing. Again, you brought up Jerome. I'm sure for him, that's a big thing for him at this point in time. It's kind of a different, personality. And I think Cole's big thing or something like that would be more much like you said, just kind of the quieter kid that doesn't have as much to say, is trying to do things. I remember when Jose Aldo, he was always quiet, didn't talk trash, didn't do anything. Yep. And all of a sudden, Connor comes around, starts talking all his trash around him and starts getting all these shots and fights. Next thing you know, he's told by his coach to talk trash, actually at Nova Union, they had actually said, you don't do that. We don't disrespect people like that. You respect all opponents. Partway through that, coach had to stop and say, hey, remember I told you this? Well, for the business side of things, we're going to have to change this. Yes, martial arts is about respect, and the UFC is about talking trash. So in order to get some fights, and I remember in one of the first fights he did it, he looked so off trying to talk trash to Chad Mendez, trying to push him and all sorts of stuff like that, which just was not Jose's situation. And then what happens when he does it with Connor? You can tell us, Zach. I'm sure it'll make you feel proud.
I just think we saw it. I mean, don't blink. It only took 13 seconds, but
he got more wound up.
He got out of character.
And
that's not who he was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the saddest things, and as a Connor fan or whatever, I love Jose Aldo. I wanted him to beat Peter Yan and become the 135 champ. Like, man, I mean, how can you not love that guy? The saddest thing is we didn't get a chance to even see him and Connor. I mean, my
see him get the rematch, did we?
My biggest knock on Connor is he's never defended a title, and that is legit. That is what keeps him out forever of being an all-time great. It does not even matter what he does from now. And people could talk about his rise being great, and it was, but it's none of it is relevant if you don't get on top and stay on top and defend your title 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
Yeah.
10 years straight.
Huh?
10 years straight.
Yeah. I mean, Jose Aldo, still, when people want to talk about featherweights, Max is great. Max beat Jose Aldo twice, and he defended his belt, but he didn't defend it the way Jose did.
Not as long yet.
But but back to you saying like that's the thing. You get out of character, and then you get out of character outside the cage. It will, in fact, affect your performance in the cage.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
We have a guy that trains with us that told an opponent at weigh-ins, uncharacteristically, and he's not much of a trash talker. He said, "I'm gonna break your jaw tomorrow night," and then he tried so hard to break his jaw, the guy ducked under and choked him out. I'm not gonna call out my boy on the Facebook, but I mean, I don't know if he listened, but you know what I mean. When you do uncharacteristic things too, you add additional pressure, on yourself.
Yep.
That. Oh, by the way, fighting in a cage is kind of stressful as it is. You don't need to add extra pressure. But then there's some people like, I don't know, if there's real bad blood, then I think like it's fine. Like, I mean, there is potentially a fight in my future. It gets my blood boiling a little bit. And like if that ever comes to fruition, like I'm going to say something because I know he's been saying stuff. You know what I mean? It's natural. It's myself. It's my real self though. And how I feel. It's different.
Well, and I think that's fine. And just, you kind of keep it, within who you are. Again, like Dutch said, people like genuine people. How often I'm trying to teach that to people around here is I don't care. Be genuine and let people like you. You don't have to lie to kick it. That's kind of what I always tell them.
Yep.
Just be who you are, and people
who you are.
Yeah, I'm kind of an ass, and I actually have 1 or 2 friends. So,
yes, you are, and I am happy to call you a friend.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah, cool.
Well,
that was a solid hour.
That was
a solid hour.
So much for 20 to 30 minutes. Sorry,
hey, the rants are always fun. I like that. I like these rants.
They are. So,
all right. Well,
we don't know what's going to happen with the 55-pound division. We know some things that shouldn't happen, right?
Oh, we got another comment before we go. Other organized sports, AMI level boxing, you just have tell you turning pro only really allowed is team colors and name on the clothing and must be within rules. Once pro, then you can decide which role you want to play, hero or villain. I like they do that. Keep it clean on all levels. I see that.
So kind of wait, you turn pro before you head that route. If that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense to me. Like, that makes I like that a lot.
Well, I think, talking about kind of, the team colors and things like that and kind of trying to unify things as well before you kind of start going one direction or the other.
Yeah.
You could be a Colby Covington and get kicked out of
ATT.
Yeah, ATT for being an ass to all your teammates. So.
Yeah.
Good call. All right, Ryan. Well, thanks for coming on. Appreciate the short notice and coming on and sharing your respected opinion. And We'll see you soon.
Very much.
Just wanted some mouth.
It's always fun.
You always got a mouth, so we can always count on you.
Okay.
Right on, guys. All right. We will get out of here. Don't forget, tomorrow night, 8:00. Stay tuned. We will be live. And we out.